Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday edition of FSU Weather. I'm student meteorologist Aaron Saray. On this cool and dry Wednesday afternoon here in Tallahassee, it is currently 64 degrees under sunny conditions outside, so it's actually not terrible outside to go outside, perhaps with a light jacket or so, and especially out in the sun where it might actually feel quite nice outside. Current temperatures across the region, we are staying in the middle to upper 60s down near the coast and lower 60s up near Georgia there. So 61 degrees in Thomasville and 64 in Tallahassee. Our current radar is bone dry with that dry air and that air mass and staying only in the 20s for the dew point. So very dry air mass over us after that cold front passed by earlier in the week. And again, strong cold front has brought the new record low temperatures at the airport. Actually hit 33 degrees this morning. And we might have a chance to break it again later tonight. Cold snap is expected to bring brief temperatures warming back up at least next week, and then also snow in Tallahassee. We'll take a look at the latest time it snowed in Tallahassee coming up on the show.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is student meteorologist Evan O'Regan. And once again, happy New York Yankees Day, everybody. The Yankees are starting the American League Championship Series against the Astros tonight. The fit has not changed since last week. And as Michael Scott would say, I'm not superstitious, I'm just a little stitious. So we're not changing the outfit. We're keeping the good vibes going. So hopefully the Yankees will have good weather in Houston the next couple of days. It looks like they will. But we actually have very cool temperatures, as Aaron was saying, as we're saying here in Tallahassee. We hit 33 degrees at the airport this morning. So, Ryan, do we have another chance to break another record overnight tonight in Tallahassee?
We do, Aaron. It's looking quite nice outside. If you haven't been outside, I sure hope you have been. 64 degrees. It was really cool when I woke up this morning. I know when I was walking to class, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have a hoodie on and I need more. I guess Florida's turned me into a little bit of a wimp. Usually I like these cooler weathers or this cooler temperature, but Here we are, 64 degrees right now at Bill Campbell Stadium. It's sunny, looking really, really nice out. We'll see another great sunset tonight. And the radar across the area, there's nothing to talk about really. We saw the cold front push through overnight the last couple days. Our rain chances popped up for a little bit. And then behind that cold front is just cool, dry weather. So overall, just a great day to be out and about. 63 degrees up in Donaldsonville, 61 in Thomasville. And even in 64 in Tallahassee. A little bit warmer as we get closer to Coast St. Mark's and Crawfordville, 67. Sumatra is sitting at 68. Madison, you're also at 67. So across the area, we're just seeing some really nice temperature. And like Evan mentioned, we did break the record this morning. 33 degrees was where we sat this morning at the airport. A little bit cooler or a little bit warmer in parts of Tallahassee, FSU, and the city itself with the urban heat island effect. But 36 degrees was our low back in 1927, and we broke that this morning by about 3 degrees. 91 was our record high set in 2005. We didn't even get close to that. We got the 66 degrees for our high today. And dew points, well, we talked about, if you've watched the last couple weeks, there's been a lot of green on the map. That green is gone. Look at all the rust color across the area. So the humidity, you won't notice it. With the future radar, nothing really to see. You'll just notice this northern wind that's going to keep funneling in these cooler temperatures. So that'll be streaming off the coast. A couple clouds up in Georgia, but really clear and comfortable. 37 degrees tonight. No winds really to speak of. We may approach that record. It was about 34 degrees. So if we get a little bit of an adjustment into forecast, we will be nearing record territory. So looking at tonight's forecast, 37 up in Bainbridge. We'll see a little bit warmer up in the mid-40s near the coast. But overall, I think there's a lot of cool temperatures tonight. Will we get near freezing? Time will tell. We'll see, record-wise and freezing-wise where we get there. But we do have frost advisories in effect for tonight. So 71 degrees is the forecast for tomorrow. That looks absolutely gorgeous. And maybe a little bit cool when you wake up. I know I have an 8 a.m. and that's going to be a little bit of a struggle. But northwest wind at about 6 miles an hour. If you're going to go out on Landis tomorrow, I think that looks really, really good. And then tomorrow's forecast, just looking really, really nice. And the rest of the week also looking quite nice out. So Nico, what do we have to talk about?
Well, and nice clear skies. There's only some precipitation down here in South Florida. This is actually the end of the front passing through for the end of the state. So they'll be experiencing some precipitation for zooming in closer to home. Since the front has already passed through, we won't be expecting any precipitation in the next several days. So we can be seeing some clear skies that are great for sky gazing, for stargazing tonight. For our afternoon, we're going to be seeing a really beautiful sunset. It's going to be completely clear, sunny, 64 degrees. You should expect those temperatures to cool off as the night goes through. And there's a slight breeze from the north-northwest at 10 miles per hour. For our radar for the central part of the state, just like Tallahassee, we are not seeing any precipitation, and we won't expect any rain for the next several days either, because now that the cold front has passed. And our friends down in Gainesville, beautiful sunset expected, just like here in Tallahassee. Almost the same temperature at 63 degrees, and a slighter breeze from the north at 7 miles per hour. So this is where all the action's going on for right now. As the front is moving through, you're going to see rain for most of South Florida, Monroe County, Miami-Dade, and Broward. You're going to be seeing some rain, mostly light and some moderate. As you can see here from the live view from Miami, it's pretty cloudy and overcast. It's not raining currently, but you can expect some more showers later on into the day. They have temperature 64, and you should also expect it to cool off later on in the night. So the only place we expect rain for tonight is down in Miami as the cold front passes through, and you can see there's going to be rain in the Bahamas as well. And our current temperatures, most of the state is going to be in the 60s. Farther north is going to be in the mid to lower 60s, and same thing down in the south, just going to be with some precipitation. Dew points, now that the front has passed through, up here in the northern part of the state, we're going to be expecting drier conditions, and down here where there's some precipitation, the dew point is still pretty high, but you should expect that to lower as well. And for tonight in Florida, clear skies for most of the state, only down south where you see clouds, and it's going to be very cool. Here in Tallahassee, 38. So it's going to be very, very cool night tonight. So please it's that time of year where you put on your sweaters, put on your jackets. For tomorrow's forecast, 70 in Pensacola, 71 in Tallahassee is our high, and 70s for most part throughout the state. Only Miami is going to be a little cloudy as the front is still trying to pass through, but it's going to be really nice weather for most of the week. And so, Evan, how are the tropics looking right now?
Well, thankfully, Nico, the tropics are actually nice and quiet. And as per the National Hurricane Center, we actually don't expect any tropical development over the next 5 days, at least in the Atlantic Basin. As you can see here, it's very, very quiet. You can actually see that cold front that just swept through here off the coast of the eastern United States, stretching all the way up from Maine way down here into the Gulf of Mexico. So quite the cold front, as most of you can probably tell. It's cold outside today, at least by Floridian standards. But again, not a whole lot to mention in the tropics. As you can see on the overview, we remain quiet, and we are not expecting any activity over the next 5 days in the Atlantic Basin. That may change, though, so just be aware of that because hurricane season does run through the end of November. So just while we have this lull, you always want to make sure that you're staying prepared on that evacuation kit, that plan that you have to evacuate in case you need to, because we can get some late season storms here as we have had in the past. Hurricane Sandy was one of them. I went through that in late October. So again, we're coming on the anniversary of that. So these storms can still happen in the late season here. So just be aware of that. As I mentioned, that cold front is still off the coast of the eastern United States. It's not really bringing any rain showers to the U.S. right now. The lone exception, though, is southern Florida, and we'll take a look at those right here on the radar. We'll zoom in here, and it looks like it's really just confined to, say, Miami-Dade County, maybe a little bit further north up towards, I'm sure Vero Beach is just right over there. I'm actually forecasting that for my current weather discussion class this afternoon. So it looks like we could deal with some hit or miss showers there as well, but the Keys are also getting some wet weather there as well, but not overly wet, as we don't really need a whole lot of rain in southern Florida because, well, we just had Hurricane Ian a few weeks ago that decimated the Florida Peninsula with all that rainfall. But the main story here is the temperature anomalies. Look at how cold it is. I don't know if you guys can see those numbers, but that's maybe 20 degrees below normal, maybe even 30 degrees below normal in some places. So this is This is unprecedented cold for October. We don't usually see near freezing temperatures, at least in the Florida Panhandle, in middle of October. So this is very, very unusual for this time of the year, and the pattern will begin to flip over the coming days or so, but we'll get to that in a minute here when I do the national later on in the show. But again, the current feels like temperatures well below freezing in some of these locations, and overnight tonight we'll really get down into the lower 30s there. You can see much of the southeast is going to be very chilly. Look at this, Atlanta sitting at 38, Tallahassee's 38. I wouldn't be surprised for places that get those clear skies and calm winds to get those numbers even colder. I know Tallahassee is under a frost advisory from the National Weather Service. I wouldn't be surprised we see some frost on some of those windows tomorrow morning and on the grass as well. But some of those temperatures could be, do I say it, near freezing tomorrow morning. So, Ryan, I know that you're from Florida. What are we thinking about those near freezing temperatures?
So I actually like the near freezing temperatures because I am originally from Chicago, so those near freezing temperatures are kind of my thing, not really too many others. But looking at around the southeast, Gainesville is staying at 63. Blacksburg, you're staying at 47. That's a little cool, especially for the southeast. Atlanta and Bowling Green also mid to upper 50s. So looking very cool throughout much of the southeast. You know, right now across all the southeast, you're looking very clear, not a lot of clouds to talk of, and the temperatures 59 out in Little Rock, 58 in Nashville, just across the Tennessee Valley, upper 50s, and then as we get into Alabama and Mississippi, you're talking about 61, 62 degrees, and then in Florida, you'll notice Tallahassee and Jacksonville, we're looking clear. As we get kind of down to Peninsula more, we start to build in some clouds, even some thunderstorms as we talked about. And then dew point-wise, just looking very comfortable. Very low humidity to speak of through much of the southeast. But then when we get down in towards, say, I-4 corridor on south, that's where the humidity and moisture in the atmosphere tend to pick up, you know, so showers and thunderstorms across the Keys and into Miami, South Florida. But the rest of the area looking clear as can be. A couple of showers and thunderstorms kind of covered up by the banner in Ohio, but the rest of the southeast just clear as can be. Not a lot of clouds, not a lot of storms to talk of. Looking at Georgia, nothing really to talk about. I-75 looking clear. Futurecast, we're going to kind of keep it that way. We'll notice a couple offshore storms bubble up near Florida, but for the rest of the southeast, there's nothing really to talk about. It's very clear, very comfortable, especially if you like those cooler temperatures. Rainfall forecast, a couple little pop-up showers as those storms start to push offshore in South Florida, but the rest of the area looking clear and comfortable. And again, like Evan mentioned, we kind of talked about those clear skies. We'll get some cooler temperatures, just a degree above freezing in Nashville, 33. Montgomery, you're going to get very close to freezing, maybe even freezing. And then Little Rock, we'll see some clouds, 36, 47 in New Orleans. So the rest of the night looks very cool. Tomorrow we're looking at about upper 60s, lower 70s as we get into the rest of the day tomorrow. Looking very nice. Off to Nico and Aaron, who are going to talk about the last time it snowed in Tallahassee.
Thank you, Ryan. So yeah, today we had really cold temperatures. Wasn't quite freezing just yet, but the last time we had freezing temps in Tallahassee that led to snow was on January 3rd of 2018. So that system that brought snow was a bomb cyclone that brought some significant effects, statistically significant effects. It was only 0.1 to 0.2 inches of snow, but we can say that Tallahassee did get a snow day. Now, what is a bomb cyclone? A bomb cyclone is a low frontal system that happens where central pressure decreases by 24 millibars in 24 hours. Now, that system brought snow for a little bit, but mostly brought freezing rain, and the difference between that is now all precipitation starts frozen up in the clouds, but as it falls, snow will always stay solid, but freezing rain will heat up back into liquid form, and then right before it hits the ground, it freezes again, and that's why it's called freezing rain, and it could lead to slick and dangerous conditions.
That's right, and of course that is pretty rare here across Tallahassee. We only see it about every 20 years or so. So it's been quite a bit, and perhaps, 2038 is when next time we could perhaps see some snow, statistically speaking. But every couple of years or so, we do perhaps see flurries fly, but they're not actually traceable, or it's not actually a measurable amount. So it's not a trace or what the Weather Service actually deems 0.1 inches or higher. But you can see in this picture here that it actually did have enough to coat the ground with a thin layer of snow, about 0.1 inches, as Nico mentioned just now, and enough to actually make snow angels. And I don't know about you, Nico, but I would have a lot of time, or have a lot of fun time there making snow angels.
Yeah, I've only seen snow a couple times in my life when I went up north, but definitely never in Florida, and that's something I really want to experience. That's actually maybe part of the reason why I came to Tallahassee, because I knew I was going to go to school in Florida, and I was like, well, what's as far north as I can go where I can possibly see snow? As a meteorology major, I think that would be incredible to see snow here in Florida.
Right, and considering we're about 20 to 30 or around 20 degrees below average this time of year in October, and we're seeing temperatures, at least at the airport last night, near freezing, perhaps it gives a little bit of optimism for some snow perhaps later on in the wintertime. But fingers crossed, but I'm not holding my breath too much here, just statistically speaking, with that lower chance of actually seeing snow. But I mean, we'll see how the weather goes, and especially with that above average temperatures expected for much of the wintertime. It's not likely, but certainly possible in a La Nina year, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, usually La Nina years bring in colder temperatures for parts of the South, like Texas, in the last few years. Due to this La Nina effect, they've actually been having record snow days, as you can remember, like the past few years. And possibly we might see that this year, and I might get to experience my first snow day here in Florida, which would be really, really incredible.
Honestly, and considering that we rarely get snow here, we obviously would have probably no class if we had a snow. So that would certainly be an interesting point here if we actually did have that. But looking forward to that day if it actually does come in the forecast, and we'll have to look out over the next few months as it happens. But now we'll turn things back over to the wall with Evan.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So maybe we'll get that snow at some point here in Tallahassee. I know I'm one of those hopefuls, especially coming from the north, that we will get that snow. Time will tell, though. We got a long way to go in winter here. But speaking of winter, it's actually making kind of an early announcement here in the eastern part of the U.S. Again, much of the eastern U.S. is sitting below average, well below average in terms of temperature here in the Midwest, also heading towards the northeast and really the southeast. That's the main story. It's really chilly for this time of the year in the southeast, well below our average here in Tallahassee, for example. But out west, look at these temperatures. 75 degrees in Billings, Montana. It's October 19th. It's pretty late in the season to be seeing middle 70s in Montana this time of the year. So a little anomalous there, but again, we're going to see a bit of a pattern flip here. I'll get to that later on in this segment. But another story with that big cold front that swept through is the drier air behind it. Most of these temperatures in terms of dew point are in the low teens. 10 degrees in Minneapolis on dew point, 27 here in Tallahassee, so very dry compared to what we're used to. And that's also feeling a bit of a fire risk because we're so dry, humidity is so low, and we're not expecting really any rainfall over the next few days. So fire threat is definitely an issue. So try not to burn anything outside unnecessarily that may spark a wildfire in your area. So just be aware of that because these winds could be gusty at times behind the front. So just be aware of that as we go forward in time here. But the good news is that we have some high pressure building in, and that's what's going to give us that nice weather, those dry conditions for the next few days, maybe over the next week or so. I don't think there's any rainfall forecast in the next 7 days, at least here in Tallahassee. But the only real spots to see any rain are going to be in the interior northeast, up here in northwestern Pennsylvania, also up there in upstate New York, and also down here in southern Florida, down near Miami. That's really the only places in the entire U.S. where you can find rain right now. But the current pattern, you can kind of see it on the upper level water vapor here. We have a ridge in the west and then a trough in the east. So that's what's fueling, that's where we have the warmer temperatures out west because there's more heat that's building with that ridge and then cooler temperatures behind the front with a trough behind that in the east. So that's the reason why we have that kind of polar opposites there in terms of temperature for the opposite sides of our country. And there's not much really to tell on the Pacific radar right now. Clear skies for much of the Pacific Northwest coast. That's always nice to see. A similar story for the central U.S. However, it's very warm, and you can kind of see where that jet stream is going down towards the south and east. That's where the flow is behind that front, a northwesterly wind behind the front. Again, it's going to fuel some fire concerns, so just be aware of that going forward in the next couple days or so. There's that big upper level low. You can see it spinning like a top there up there in southern Canada, and it's also bringing some showers to the coastal regions of Lake Ontario there in upstate New York. I know Buffalo's notorious for getting lake effect snow. Fortunately, it is warm enough. We are not seeing any snow just yet, although we could average, I think Buffalo averages roughly 80 inches of snow, probably more than that per season. So thankfully we're not seeing that yet. Still early for that. But the Gulf Coast is quiet with the exception of southern Florida, as I mentioned earlier, dealing with some light rain showers with the remnants of that cold front that just passed through our area. The desert Southwest is also quiet as we are reaching the end of the Southwest monsoon season. And here's that pattern flip I was mentioning earlier. We're going to flip our pattern where we get colder air in the west over the next 6 to 10 days and then warmer than average temperatures throughout much of the east coast. The hot spot actually is going to be the northeastern U.S., well above average. That's the area where you see the greatest chance of seeing above average temperatures over the next week or week and a half. So that'll be a nice change. We get a little bit of a reversal here. So maybe early fall, late summer vibes kind of mixing in there. But we'll also be above average in terms of temperature in the north, of precipitation, in the southeast and northwest. But not much in terms of rainfall over the next 2 days. Tomorrow looks nice, though, especially for Billings. Look at it, 77. And, of course, nice here in Tallahassee, 71.
Yeah, here in Tallahassee, as you can see from these live views from the FSU Sportsplex and from Panama City and Lake Bradford, all clear skies. And that's one of my favorite parts about these cold fronts is that they bring nice clear skies, no precipitation. So there's really a lot of stuff that you guys can do out there, like play sports or go for a nice walk on a boardwalk. Closer to home here in Doe Campbell Stadium, it's 64 degrees currently and sunny with a slight breeze from the north at 10 miles per hour. And I think it's going to be a really good day to see the sunset. It's going to be a beautiful day. And due to these clear skies, there actually are no delays that we expect for Tallahassee International. And for most of the country, as Evan was talking about, most of the country other than Miami is pretty much not seeing any precipitation. So we can expect clear skies for our pilots. And for that reason, we do not see any delays either. And for our dog walk forecast, it's going to be a little bit chilly tomorrow morning, 38 degrees. So I wouldn't be wanting to walk in that temperature. I'd wait probably until later on in the morning at 9 a.m. When it's a little bit warmer at 45 degrees. And then later on at 11, it gets up to 60 degrees. For our tonight's stargazing forecast, it's going to be incredible. For our waning gibbous, it's going to be clear skies, great viewing conditions for our stargazers out there. And for Thursday night football tonight, over there in Glendale, Arizona, it's going to be 76 and partly cloudy. Even though they play indoors, it's not going to be these temperatures are not going to be much of a factor. But if you're walking to the stadium, it's going to be pretty nice. And for our FSU baseball playing Kennesaw State on Saturday, it's going to be a really beautiful day, both for playing and for enjoying. From watching from the stands, it's going to be really nice at 71, perfect room temperature, I would say. And it's going to be very clear as well. And for our FSU women's soccer playing a huge top 5 matchup against UNC on Thursday, it's going to be a really cool night, actually. So I'd put on a couple layers, sweaters, jackets to go on and watch this game on Thursday, even though it's going to be a really beautiful night. And for our weekend forecast, we can expect clear skies throughout and cool temperatures for most of the mornings, but going on into the weekend, the temperatures are going to raise back up into the low 80s. Now we're going to pass it off to Aaron for our look at the local.
Thanks, Nico. That is quite the chill box there with temperatures in the 30s. So really, honestly, interesting to see. But currently outside right now, it is 64 degrees with the sunny conditions. So don't let your eyes deceive you. It is a little bit chilly outside, especially for Florida here, and especially in the shade where it could actually feel even chillier than that and with that wind chill factor here. So on radar, dry across the board with temperatures still in the very cold, and of course with that drier air filtering in across much of the panhandle. Current temperatures right now are reading in the middle 60s, with the cooler spot being near Thomasville at 61 degrees and the warmer spot down towards, or actually Sumatra at 68 degrees down towards the river there. But overall temperatures are still a little chilly for this time of year in terms of Florida. But it was a chill box this morning at 33 degrees of a low temperature at the airport. So downtown is probably a little bit warmer than that, probably closer to the mid to upper 30s, but at the airport. That's still nonetheless, it's still middle of October. That's pretty chilly for Florida, and even here in North Florida, that is very chilly, and considering the average low is 57 degrees. So huge departure from our average low, and we broke that record of 36 set back in 1927. Current dew points, it is dry as a bone here. 27 degrees is in Tallahassee, upwards of actually upper 20s in Donaldsonville, so chapstick weather here as we continue on throughout the rest of, actually the next few days or so with those drier conditions. But the reason why is because we have that northerly wind bringing that Arctic Canadian air in across much of the region, and that's what's providing for that drier and cooler air across the area. Those will begin to lax as we come in throughout overnight into tomorrow. We'll begin to see more of the winds relaxing. That's the reason why we have that wind chill advisory, or not wind chill advisory, I should say, the frost advisory in effect for the area, as we'll see the potential of some of those, especially the shadier areas where we might see a little bit of frost develop on the grass tomorrow morning. Tonight, temperatures drop down to near 37 degrees. Wouldn't surprise me if we go a little bit chillier than that, considering yesterday it was actually forecast to be almost higher than that, and it went even lower. But mostly clear conditions, and winds are calm, so we won't see a wind chill tonight, but still cold nonetheless, especially if you're a native Floridian. Tonight's forecast, we are staying mostly in the upper 30s, I should say, for much of the Big Bend. A little bit warmer as you go down towards where you have that marine influence there, down in St. Marks and Carabel, down in the 40s. And inland near I-10, we're going to stay in the 30s. Tomorrow, it's going to actually warm up quite nicely in the 71 degrees, so you might actually be able to take off that layer tomorrow as you walk around campus tomorrow. So we're actually going to go from winter to fall, so might be perhaps refreshing for some folks here, especially pretty early in the season. Tomorrow's forecast, again, across the area, we're going to stay perhaps in the upper 60s as you get towards our northwest there across southwest Georgia and southeastern Alabama. But for the week ahead, we're going to see actually quite the show there, with temperatures going back up to near or actually even above average as we get towards the end of the week. But now, we'll pass things back to Ryan at the desk.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Definitely, we're getting out of the warm summer season and into the fall season. I know for me, I'm kind of at Starbucks, getting away from those ice drinks, getting more into those warm hot chocolate type beverages. I don't drink coffee, so I definitely have to get the hot chocolate. I know across much of the southeast end of the U.S., we're seeing some below average temperatures tonight. And definitely as I wake up tomorrow, I know at least I have an 8 a.m. I'm going to have to put on like every hoodie I own, I think, because in order to just survive that 8 a.m., I need a lot of caffeine, and now I'm going to need warmth. So just add that to the equation. I know lots of sports going on tonight. Of course, Evan's going to talk to you a lot about the Yankees the next couple of days. I know he's celebrating behind the scenes just because I brought that up. 90 degrees in San Diego if you're watching the NLCS. Padres versus Phillies, that's going to be a very entertaining series. Both the Yankees and Astros will be. Hope you follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/FSU Weather. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/FSU Weather. And then if you're watching us here on YouTube, just take the one extra click and subscribe. And if you want to turn on notifications as well, that's always great. And on Instagram at FSU Weather. We have a lot of great stuff to talk about. Evan's going to give us one last look at our 7-day forecast, which is looking cool, but the 80s are coming back. So, Evan?
Yeah, that's right, Ryan. So we are going to be cool for the next couple of days. As you said, we're probably going to need that hot drink at Starbucks. Going down into the lower 30s tonight. I wouldn't be surprised to see low numbers there tonight, but we do warm back up later next week, getting back up into the middle of 80s. This is student meteorologist Evan Regan. Have a fantastic evening and stay warm, Tallahassee.